Good morning. So, I really like doing game jams. In fact, I think I love game jams. I love the time crunch, I love staying up till 3 in the morning, I love having to think out of the box, and I just love making a game start to finish. I even love them so much that I've invited friends who have had no previous game jam experience to do one with me. Last Thanksgiving, this was exactly what I did. On a complete whim, I asked a buddy with no experience or knowledge whatsoever to make a game with me. This actually turned out super well and we both had a blast. If you want to check that out, I put out a video about that and I'll have it linked below. We had enough of a blast with that on the last day of school this year, in my yearbook he wrote, "Let's do another game jam or something." When I read this, I was super excited. I was over the moon that he actually wanted to code with me, so I started to look at some of the jams. I quickly landed on the GMTK Game Jam. This was one of the biggest jams on itch, hosted by the Game Maker's Toolkit YouTube channel, and I felt like it was a perfect opportunity. The jam lasted only 48 hours, so it was a very short jam and would be a ton of fun. But you see, we made these plans at the beginning of the summer, in May. And the jam was all the way in June, a full 2 months later. So slowly, my memory of this started to fade, until it had completely slipped my mind till the day before it was supposed to start. Thankfully, I didn't accidentally plan something over it, so after clearing up my schedule, I was ready to go. We met up the following day right around 11 when the jam started, and the theme was announced. We both sat down, opened up our laptops, and looked at the theme. Roles reversed. This stumped us for more time than I'd like to admit. Most of the ideas that I was coming up with would have either been too hard to make in the 48-hour time limit or just wouldn't have been fun. But after a couple of minutes, I finally thought of what I was going to do. I settled on making an endless runner. But instead of trying to dodge the obstacles, you were the one placing down the obstacles, trying to stop the player. My buddy decided to make a zombie horde game where you were the one playing as the horde. With both of us having an idea, we got to work. Per usual, I first went to the Unity asset store and started getting some assets for my game. I found a simple asset pack that had a good looking tile map and sprites, and I was ready to go. Right out of the gate, I was greeted with my Visual Studios and IntelliSense, or Code Autocomplete, not working, which always seems to happen to me whenever I need it to the least. But a half an hour later, I was actually ready to go. The first thing I wanted to do was get the ground scrolling infinitely. But wait, didn't I make an infinite runner recently? Okay. So now the ground is scrolling great. Super easy. Next up was to add the player. He had a very basic function. If he saw something in front of him, then he'd jump. Very, very easy. After I stopped him from jumping to the moon, it was actually looking pretty good. Next up, I needed a way to place the items that would eventually be used to stop the player. Like a shop system of sorts. Wouldn't it be very convenient if I had made a shop system like a week ago for a completely other project? Link in description. Okay, now I have a rough shop system in. Right now you can only buy blocks, but hey, something is working. I was feeling pretty confident with the systems that I had already put in the game so far. It had only been a couple of hours, so I wanted to tidy up and fix a couple of smaller issues before I got myself more buried in technical debt and small bugs. I got the ground speed working right and some UI working correctly, and soon enough, it was a lot better. Next, I felt that the shop was pretty empty at this point, so let's fill it up. I used a couple of other random sprites that I had in my asset pack and was feeling a lot more fleshed out. One of the items that I added to the shop was a treasure chest. I was originally going to go for a coin, but the asset pack didn't have one, and once in, I started to take a fancy to the treasure chest idea. The whole concept and gameplay function of this would be that you only have a limited amount of money to buy obstacles, but you can replenish your money by making the player collect the chests in hard to reach places. At this point in time, I decided that the AI player was not smart enough. All his brain consisted of was if he saw something in front of him, then he'd jump. That's not very smart, and it's only marginally dumber than me, so let's add some more intelligence. The way that I was going to improve this was I wanted it to be able to tell when there was a gap in front of it to jump over. This was actually super easy to code in. I just had a single collider in front to see if the ground it was walking on went away. Simple. At this point, the game needed some fine tuning. Like a lot of fine tuning. But I didn't necessarily want to start tuning the game with only temporary assets in, so after sitting twiddling my thumbs for an hour, I decided it was finally time to start my art. Like usual with my art, I started off by nabbing a color palette that caught my eye in Lost Spec. For this, I wanted a lot of grays and a couple of brown colors. I found this and was ready to bring it into Photoshop. First up, I was working on the player. I wanted him a very heroic and important look to him, so that way it felt like you were trying to kill someone important and good. Because of this, I looked up some Indiana Jones pixel art and used that for some main inspiration. In the end, I think he looked really good. Kinda like a Forest Service worker, but oh well. Next up, I started to work on the ground and environment around him. I wanted the player to be trying to run and escape a cave of sorts. I made the ground that he would be running on, and it looked really good. I feel like I'm actually getting pretty good at pixel art. From there, I made a spike that would block the player's path, and it looked fairly epic. I decided that for the currency, I was going to stick with the treasure chest. Originally, I was going to make a coin, but that's been done a million times. So why not mix it up and make a treasure chest? Following after that, I wanted to add in the background so I could get a better idea of how I wanted the rest of the props to feel. This was just some dark pillory things that felt great with the cave aesthetic. Now that was done, I was free to start some of the obstacles. These were somewhat difficult to design because I wanted to add cool geometry and interactions, but then I still needed to allow the player to be able to get through them in almost any situation. I only want to make it so you can stop the player, the main objective of the game, by combining multiple obstacles in unique locations, not just by one obstacle. So it took some forethought to design some of these, but in no time at all, I got a hollow tree and a small crate. After that, I started on a bigger rock with a ramp leading up to it when, boom, my laptop crashed. And guess who forgot to save literally anything? Welp, I just lost all my progress. Yeah, I don't really feel like doing anything more today. After I lost all of the progress that I had made in the art, I was kind of discouraged, and it was already late, so I stopped working on my own project and helped my buddy get his game along. He'd done quite a bit of progress with only a little bit of help, and I showed him how to do a couple of things before we went to bed that night. The next day, I had work, so I didn't meet up with my friend that morning, but that doesn't mean I didn't get any progress in. For the art, I still had some of the screen recordings of me drawing the art, so instead of actually having to use my brain again, I just copied all the art that I had from the screen recordings back to Photoshop. And I remembered to save this time. From there, I added a couple more obstacles, and I was ready to get that in the game. While at work, I put everything in the game and the shop, and with a little bit of tuning, the game was running absolutely phenomenal. From there, it's time to set up the menus and the other small bits that I always put off, and they always take too long, but eventually it was done. At this point, the full game loop was fully developed. All I was left to do was make it feel good. Add that game juice, if you know what I mean. I decided that the win and lose screens were too boring, so why not make some hand-drawn pieces of art to remedy the boringness. This didn't take me long at all, and I personally love them, especially the win screen. There's something that just makes me chuckle having the win screen being the good guy getting crushed. I got those in the game and it was feeling a lot higher quality, but there's still a lot of progress to go. I made a swooshy banner that whooshed across the screen when you started, while it also told you the main objective of the game. After that, I needed to turn to another aspect of making a game feel good. Sound effects really can make a game feel good if done right, but sadly, I'm no sound engineer, so you're stuck with my crappy excuse. I added a cool song that I found online. Shout out Studio Comlana for your dope song that I found on Pixabay. I also added a less intense song from Ghoul and Bernard's for the start screen and the end screen. From there, I dotted around some other sound effects like collision and a whoosh for the starting graphic. Last on my list was coming up with a title, and this is so hard for me to do. After banging my head on the desk for a couple of minutes, I had a genius idea. Why not have the name of the game literally be the main objective, while getting to reuse art I had already drawn? So I stole the banner that said, "Stop him," and slapped it on the background, and boom, title screen. From there, both me and my buddies were done with our games, so now came time to build it. This, as usual, took a couple of builds, but soon enough, I had it functioning. From there, I made one of my better looking pages on itch, and I submitted the game around 1 in the morning. Ta-da! I was all done. After helping my friend submit his game, we were free. I was able to go to sleep without a thought in my mind. The next day, I got up without a worry, and the jam ended. There were almost 7,000 submissions to this jam, so I had a lot of games to play through. I love playing through everyone's games and just seeing their take on the idea. I also love to see all the comments and suggestions for my own game. Overall, I was super happy with the game I made, but there were some comments and suggestions that I could definitely put into my game. But overall, this is a done game. I don't plan on coming back to it anytime soon. If you want to play my game, then I'll have the link for that in the description. If this video goes out when I'm planning it, then you might still have around 3 hours to play and write the game, so if you want to do that, it would be greatly appreciated. Thanks to the 3 of you watching this long. If you liked this video, then like and subscribe. If you didn't, don't. Or whatever. I'm not your mom. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time. And I felt like it was, oh my gosh, that startled the